There's a crack forming in the heart of Africa, and no, this isn't a metaphor. The continent is literally pulling itself apart. In one of the most dramatic tectonic breakups happening on the planet right now, East Africa is tearing open along a 3,000-kilometer-long scar called the Great Rift Valley. And if that sounds intense, it's because it is. Two massive tectonic plates, the Nubian and Somali plates, are slowly drifting away from each other, and what's left in their wake might eventually become an entirely new ocean.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
We're not talking theory. This is actively happening beneath the feet of more than 50 million people. From Ethiopia down to Mozambique, the ground is stretching, cracking, and reshaping itself. Massive cliffs and deep gorges don't just make for cool vacation photos, they're evidence of the Earth's crust being torn apart in real time. And the process, it's slow, excruciatingly slow, just a few millimeters a year. But over millions of years, it adds up to continental reconfiguration. What drives this silent rupture is something deep and unstoppable. Mantle plumes. Beneath the surface, especially under the Afar Depression in Ethiopia, hot molten rock from the Earth's mantle rises in pulses. These surges force the crust above to stretch and crack, fueling volcanic eruptions and accelerating the divergence of the tectonic plates. It's all happening at the Afar Triple Junction, a geological hotspot where the Nubian, Somali, and Arabian plates converge. Here, new crust is being born, a literal glimpse into what a newborn ocean might look like before the water floods in. And here's where things start to feel unreal. This isn't just a geologic curiosity. Scientists are watching this unfold in real time using GPS, radar satellites, and seismic instruments. These tools measure everything from crustal stretching to tiny ground movements and earthquakes, revealing a constantly shifting landscape. Take the 2005 dike intrusion near Ethiopia. For example, magma surged underground, the ground split, and the earth shifted dramatically within days. One moment the landscape looked like it always had, and the next, new faults and cracks had redrawn the terrain. Lakes like Tanganyika and Malawi, they aren't just pretty bodies of water. They're sitting in massive rift basins that are actively sinking and stretching due to tectonic forces. Their deep basins and shifting shorelines aren't stable, they're geological markers of a crust in motion. These lakes are essentially mile markers on the road to a new ocean, slowly tracing the scars of Earth's transformation. But here's the wild part. While this all sounds like something out of a documentary about Earth's distant past, it's affecting people now. The Rift Valley isn't some uninhabited expanse of rock and dust. It's home to tens of millions of people who live and work above a geologic fault line that's in a near-constant state of tension. Earthquakes aren't rare. Volcanic activity isn't a distant threat. Ground fissures can open with little warning. For the communities living here, geological instability isn't abstract, it's personal. And yet, there's a strange duality to the rift. While it poses risks, it also offers opportunities. Take geothermal energy. In Kenya, the Olkaria geothermal project taps into the Earth's internal heat, supplying clean electricity and fueling economic growth. So, while some areas deal with cracked roads and earthquake tremors, others are harnessing the same forces to light homes and power cities. It's a bizarre relationship, benefiting from the same geological chaos that also keeps you on edge. Now, what does the future of the rift actually look like? Scientists are watching closely, but the outcome is still uncertain. There are three possible scenarios. First, the plates keep pulling apart, the rift widens, and one day, the Indian Ocean floods in to form a new sea, cutting a chunk of East Africa off from the rest of the continent. Second, the rifting slows, the tension eases, and the crust holds together a little longer, delaying the breakup indefinitely. Third, volcanic activity continues, earthquakes persist, but the land never fully splits. The transformation stalls midway. Any of these paths could unfold, and that's part of the drama. We know what's happening beneath the surface. We know the forces involved, but we don't know what the final act will look like or when it'll happen. It could take millions of years, or a major geologic event could speed up the timeline. Either way, the East African Rift is the stage for one of the most significant natural processes on Earth. It's a front row seat to continental drift in action, and honestly, it makes you rethink what permanent really means. We look at maps and treat them as fixed, but the ground underneath them is constantly on the move. The rift reminds us that continents aren't static. Their temporary arrangements slowly, inevitably, being redrawn.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
In the end, East Africa's transformation is a masterclass in deep time. Tectonic plates don't care about human timelines. They move at their own pace, reshaping the world inch by inch. And right now, Africa is being rewritten from the inside out. The cracks are real. The shifts are happening. And somewhere down the line, a new ocean may rise where land once stood. If this blew your mind just a little, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more stories that uncover the chaos happening right under our feet. You never know, your next vacation destination might be floating away on its own tectonic journey. Let's be clear, this isn't just some fascinating geological footnote. This is Earth, mid-transformation. We're witnessing the literal restructuring of a continent, and the scale of it is absurd. One day, East Africa might not be part of Africa at all. Picture an island the size of a small subcontinent drifting away, separated by a brand new ocean. That's not science fiction. That's tectonics. And it's already underway. The signs are everywhere across the Rift Valley, a region that stretches from Ethiopia in the north, winds through Kenya and Tanzania, and reaches all the way to Mozambique in the south. This isn't just a line on a map, it's a corridor of transformation. Think deep fissures running across roads, valleys collapsing into chasms, steam rising from the earth as molten rock creeps closer to the surface. The cliffs, escarpments, and volcanoes aren't just scenic, they're structural symptoms of continental decay. Take the Afar Depression in northeastern Ethiopia. It's one of the only places on Earth where you can actually stand at the meeting point of three tectonic plates, the Nubian, Somali, and Arabian. This is called a triple junction, and it's not just a geological trivia fact. It's ground zero for continental breakup. And what's happening there is wild. The Earth's crust is so thin in this region that you can literally walk across freshly formed terrain. New crust is being created as magma pushes up and forces the plates apart. That's right, brand new Earth is being born beneath your feet. This is where the mantle plume comes into play. Think of it like a fiery engine buried deep beneath the surface, pumping out molten rock and heat. These plumes are what drive the plates apart. Under the Afar region, the plume is especially active, surging upward in pulses and weakening the crust from below. These pulses aren't steady, they come in bursts, like geological hiccups that can reshape landscapes overnight. Volcanic eruptions, ground uplift, cracks splitting open in what used to be farmland, it's all part of the process. And yes, this affects people, millions of them. Around 50 million people live along this dynamic rift zone. For them, the Earth doesn't feel solid and stable, it creaks, shudders, and sometimes roars. Earthquakes, though often small, are a constant reminder that the ground is shifting. Then there's the volcanic risk. Some of the region's volcanoes are active or dormant, but always unpredictable. When magma surges underground, it doesn't always lead to an eruption, it can instead push laterally, cracking the crust and reshaping the surface in sudden, violent movements. In 2005, near the Afar region, magma forced its way through the crust in what scientists call a dike intrusion. The ground ripped open over a span of 60 kilometers in just a few days. This wasn't just a little crack, it was a tectonic event large enough to register globally. And it served as a dramatic example of how quickly things can escalate when you're living on top of a rift zone. Now, while this might sound like a horror movie waiting to happen, there's another side to the story. The same heat that causes earthquakes and crustal fractures is also a massive energy resource. In Kenya, geothermal power stations have turned the rift's fury into fuel. The Olkaria geothermal project taps deep into the Earth's heat to produce electricity enough to power cities, drive industry, and reduce reliance on fossil fuels. It's a rare example of humans not just surviving in a hostile environment, but thriving by turning danger into opportunity. Still, it's not all innovation and energy. The challenges are very real. Infrastructure in the Rift Valley is constantly at risk. Roads crack, buildings shift, water systems are vulnerable to sudden ground movement. For rural communities, these changes are more than inconvenient, they're existential threats. Farming becomes harder when land subsides or fractures. Water sources can be disrupted when lakes shift or underground aquifers are affected by tectonic activity. And those lakes, Tanganyika, Malawi, Turkana, are more than just beautiful features on a map. They're living indicators of what's happening below. Lake Tanganyika is one of the deepest freshwater lakes in the world, and it owes its dramatic depth to the Rift Valley. These lakes form in rift basins, essentially huge geological dents caused by the stretching of the crust. As the plates move apart, these basins widen and sink, slowly being filled with water over time. The lakes are growing, evolving, and in some cases, deepening as the rift continues to pull apart. But this isn't a process with a guaranteed ending. That's the real kicker. Scientists agree the continent is splitting, but no one can say for sure how far it'll go. Maybe East Africa will break away completely and form a new ocean channel, separating from the rest of the continent like Madagascar once did. Maybe the rifting slows, stabilizes, and never quite finishes the job. Or maybe the whole region becomes a volcanic hotspot, with eruptions shaping the landscape without ever fully breaking it apart. Any of those outcomes are possible, and they're not mutually exclusive. Geology doesn't follow a script. It doesn't care about tidy endings. All we know is that the process is happening. It's active, it's measurable, and it's changing the map of Africa one fault line at a time. Right now, modern science is doing its best to track these changes. GPS stations placed across the rift detect millimeter-scale movements. Radar satellites measure ground deformation. Seismometers pick up tremors that would be imperceptible to human senses. It's like the Earth has been wired with a set of sensors, all whispering updates about what it's doing next. The tools are precise, the data is rich, and the story they're telling is one of continuous transformation. These technologies have revolutionized how we understand continental drift. What once took centuries of guesswork and scattered field observations is now monitored in real time. Scientists can see exactly where the crust is thinning, where stress is building, and where magma is pooling beneath the surface. It's a real-time look into the life cycle of a continent, and it's only possible because the rift is so active, so exposed, and so well instrumented. And here's something to think about. We're lucky to be alive at a time when we can watch this unfold. Most tectonic changes are invisible on a human timescale. Continents drift, mountains rise, oceans open, but usually over tens of millions of years. In East Africa, though, we're getting glimpses of these changes in decades, even years. We're living through the kind of slow-motion planetary surgery that rewrites geography textbooks and shifts coastlines. It's a reminder that Earth is not finished. The surface under our feet isn't final, it's transitional. Maps feel permanent, but they're just snapshots. And Africa's current form, it's only temporary. The tectonic forces beneath East Africa are rearranging the puzzle, carving a path toward a new configuration that none of us will live to see, but one that's already begun. So the next time someone tells you the ground beneath your feet is solid, just send them a picture of the Rift Valley. It's wild, right? The idea that we're walking on something so unstable, that entire regions can be on the verge of cracking open, and most people have no idea. But in East Africa, this isn't a thought experiment or a hypothetical from a geology class. It's real. It's happening. And in many ways, it's already too far gone to reverse. Because once tectonic plates start to pull apart, the process doesn't just stop. Sure, it might slow down or stall temporarily, but this isn't a single event. It's a deep, planetary motion. The plates are like rafts floating on molten rock, and when one starts drifting away from another, it's usually because something big is pushing from below. That something big in this case is the mantle plume under the Afar region, a rising column of scorching material from the Earth's mantle that's been quietly, relentlessly heating and thinning the crust above it. And when the crust weakens, cracks form, volcanoes erupt, entire slabs of land start sinking. The Rift Valley is basically a scar across the face of Africa, visible wound where the continent is slowly being pulled apart by forces no one can control. And the tension is always there, even if it's not always dramatic. The people who live along this fault line, they know. Maybe not the science of it, but they feel it. In towns across Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, and Mozambique, the ground occasionally shakes, structures crack, and steam vents hiss in the background. Some communities have seen literal fissures tear through the earth, opening up new chasms where there was once flat ground. In rural areas, these events can isolate entire villages, block roads, or damage farmland overnight. And yet, people adapt. Because what else can they do? This isn't a storm that passes or a wildfire you can put out. It's the planet itself changing shape. And through it all, communities find ways to live on this restless land. Some even thrive. Like in Kenya, where geothermal plants tap into the heat from underground magma to power homes and cities. The same geological forces that cause earthquakes are also helping reduce carbon emissions and bring electricity to places that once had none. It's a strange, almost poetic relationship, humans harnessing the energy of the same earth that could split beneath them. A kind of uneasy truce. The land provides, but it also threatens. There's no turning away from that duality. And here's the kicker. We don't even fully understand where it's all headed. Scientists have narrowed it down to 3 broad possibilities, but none of them come with a guarantee. The first, the plates keep drifting, the rift keeps widening, and eventually the Indian Ocean pours into the gap. Boom, new ocean. A stretch of East Africa becomes an island, separated by a newly formed sea. That outcome would take millions of years, of course, but the signs are already pointing in that direction. The crust is thinning, magma is rising, and new faults are forming all the time. There's a slow momentum to it. You can almost feel the land bracing for change. The second possibility. The process slows down. Maybe the mantle plume under afar weakens. Maybe tectonic forces shift focus elsewhere. The rift stabilizes, and the Great Divide stalls halfway through its journey. The land stays split but doesn't fully separate. It's like a breakup that never quite happens, dense, unresolved, and probably destined to flare up again. Then there's the third option. The plates don't fully part, but volcanic activity becomes a long-term feature of the region. Think decades or centuries of eruptions, seismic swarms, ground deformation enough to keep the landscape in constant flux, but without the finality of a. Whichever path we end up on, one thing's clear, this isn't over, not by a long shot. The Earth is still writing this story, one earthquake, one fault line, one plume of magma at a time. And what makes it even more surreal is how measurable all of this has become. A few decades ago, we couldn't track this kind of movement in real time. Now, satellites scan the region from space, detecting even the tiniest shifts in the crust. GPS stations pick up movements so small you wouldn't feel them standing there, but they add up. Scientists can watch, moment by moment, as East Africa quietly rearranges itself. It's like having front row seats to the slowest, most dramatic disaster movie ever made, except it's not fiction, and it doesn't end into hours. It's a saga that started millions of years ago and will keep unfolding long after we're gone. But we are living through a part of it, and that's worth thinking about. The maps we grew up with, the continents, the borders, the familiar coastlines are impermanent. They're chapters in a much longer story. A story written by pressure, heat, and time. Africa splitting apart might sound impossible. It might sound dramatic, but it's happening. Slowly, silently, unstoppably. And the next time you look at a globe and think of it as fixed, remember this. Somewhere in East Africa, the Earth is stretching, cracking, and sinking just a little more than it did yesterday. If you're as fascinated or mildly terrified by that thought as we are, hit the like button, drop your theories in the comments, and subscribe for more stories that prove this planet never stops moving. Because even the ground we stand on has a deadline. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, you're officially part of the small percentage of people who don't just click away, and that means a lot. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me your thoughts, your ideas, or even what you'd like to see next. I read every single one of them, and your feedback genuinely shapes the direction of this channel. If you enjoyed the video, tap that like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. We've got more exciting videos coming, and trust me, you'll want to be here for them. This channel is just getting started, and your support helps it grow faster than you realize. Thank you again for spending a part of your day here with me. Stay curious, stay motivated, and as always, take care of yourself. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.